Welcome everyone to another episode of Unity Manifest Podcast. Still kind of messing that one up a little bit in the beginning. Today our guest is Dr. I should have asked you how I pronounce your name. Is it Dr. Sharnael?
Sharnael, yes, sir.
Sharnael. And she is I don't know, what would you call yourself? I really don't even know what to call you. You don't have a title on your website.
I'm a naturopathic doctor, but I love like spirituality and energy and pretty much creating and miracles and I don't know. I'm a person. I'm just a human with hopes to live my full potential God self.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. What is full potential? How does a person know what their full potential is?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my belief, and I use the word belief like to be alive in, and we talked about this kind of at the beginning before we were recording. I believe that every cell within us is God. And so we have the potential to live as gods. When we do, if we do, when we remember, and I like the word remember, meaning remember, to member again, meaning to get into that alignment with the DNA or technology of God, because God and our cells can do amazing things, even by location, remote viewing, get clarity from dreams and visions, you know, telepathic conversations. There's no time and space with God. Like the thing is, we have so much going on externally, and internally, whether it's traumas or emotional damage. It could be your diet, it could be, the environmental stuff like toxins in the air and the earth and the water and maybe what you eat has herbicides or pesticides, and those kind of things can like change up the cells or kind of reprogram or cover up so we're not fully clear on what we're capable of at sometimes. And so the whole hero's journey for me is constantly clearing, constantly being aware of what I'm putting in my mouth, of what I'm all these gates visually, hearing certain things, what I'm setting myself before, what I'm talking about, what I'm feeling, and just being hyper aware of making sure that anything that I'm exposed to or participating in is going to bring me in a higher place and not into the opposite. Or if it comes with food or drink, um, that it's not, is like the question is this going to make me have to detox this later and put a bunch
Mhm.
of work and energy in my body to clear this, or is this going to like support me and give me energy and like help me thrive and be my best sharpest tool in the toolbox. And look, I don't do it all right. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I eat perfect every day and I get my sunshine and I do all the biohacking and I eat clean water all the time, and I think perfectly and I never cry. It's like that's part of that, balance, I guess, is of just finding that balance within myself and helping other people to kind of get there as much as possible. But what about you? What do you think it is?
One of the things that you mentioned that I question myself quite a bit is like we talk, talking about like the food, nutrition, and all these things that are physical to 3D reality. And I wonder sometimes, like, oh, maybe these things aren't important now to me because from like a higher perspective, from a meta perspective, I like the 5D model. So I kind of like, we'll say like the 5D consciousness level. From there, the stuff that I'm able to create and manipulate and do whatever I want with the 3D stuff. So what I'm actually doing in the 3D isn't so important anymore. So it's the food and the things like that start to become like a secondary
I agree.
concern.
I agree. Because obviously, well, not obviously, but I have studied like the breatharians and these people who go up and, I'm a big proponent of like fasting and wow, the physiology that happens just by not eating is pretty incredible, on a cognitive and on an energy level. So it's like, what is the limit? You're right. Like what's real and what isn't? Like what have we made up? Like what is the programming or is it actual, you know?
Mhm. I mean, I'll watch shows like Naked and Afraid. You see people going 21 days, no food, no problem, no, So truthfully, maybe we don't think we maybe need it. Do we really need food? Could we live without food? Like in books like Autobiography of a Yogi, you hear about people that never eat.
I love that book. Yeah, I honestly, so it's funny that you mentioned that because I usually eat about one meal a day. And sometimes I don't even do that. Like my husband works out of town a lot and I work out of town a lot. And I find I don't personally cook. I know that sounds terrible, but I just don't enjoy it. And our kids are out of the house now, except for one, and she
Mhm.
is very picky about what she eats. So she wants to make her own food. So if my husband's out of town or if I'm out of town, I will go like 2 or 3 days and completely forget. Like I don't get hungry. I don't think about it. I choose to know what that is, but if he's home, he's cooking, and so I'll go eat it. Or a lot of times he'll go, "When's the last time you ate?" And then I'll just be like, I think Thursday." And then he'll be like, "Here," and he puts it in front of me, like, "Eat this," and I'm just like, "Okay," But I don't
Mhm.
think about it. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just I work a lot and I enjoy my work, so it's not really work.
Yeah.
Um, and I think well, what I made up is when you're doing your purpose and you love it, and maybe food isn't a thing. Maybe, and some people are like, "Oh, you got to have so much water a day." I don't even drink water that much, which is,
Mhm.
maybe not a good brag.
I mean, you can even take this to another level. Like, what is the point of supporting this living body if we are God to begin with?
Right? Yeah,
Like why bother? Why
because
bother?
God's not drinking water.
Yeah. So really, if we let this body go, the more freedom we would have.
Yeah, and if you think about like animals, and if they get sick, they don't eat. It makes
Yeah.
them better. It helps them heal. It keeps the machine go in a different way to speed up all that healing. And I work a lot with people with cancer and kind of the tougher stuff. And the
Hmm.
first thing I do is tell people fast, get on some sort of keto or carnivore or something. So you're slimlining that and really, but fasting is huge, in
What
my
when
mind.
do you ever have to tell those people like, hey, it's time to let go?
No, I haven't thought about that as far as the terminology of what you're saying,
Like,
but
because there is a time, we all die.
oh yeah. Oh, you mean like to let go, like just go.
Yeah, like give up the fight.
I have that conversation with my grandmother when she passed. I had that conversation with my mother-in-law who recently passed. Um, I think she was hanging on because she had four boys still here, and
Hmm.
she was a single mom, and she was worried about her husband. And I was there with her all the way to the end. And I did. I sat there and I just said, "Hey, it's okay. I'll take care of these guys. Like they're gonna be fine, you know." Um, and I have had that conversation with my patients. I haven't had that conversation. I haven't been in a situation to say those things, but I think that is real. I think there are some people who, oh, you know what? My mentor who passed in November, I had that conversation with him too, because he was hurting so bad and it was not easy for me. It was harder for me to let go than for him, I think. But his daughter and just all of us, and I was like, it's okay. It's okay, you can go. And oh, I'm gonna cry. Ah. Have you had that conversation with someone?
Yes, yes, multiple times. One thing I'll say though is I don't feel like the grieving, like I totally grieve and I grieve hard and I still grieve some losses that have happened like over 10 years ago still affect me drastically. But also like deep down inside, like I know that this isn't all real.
Right.
Like that's, and I also know like that's why I'm here. I'm here to have this illusion of deep pain and
You're freaking me
separation.
out. You're freaking me out. I literally wrote this down 2 days ago. I was on the beach in Destin and I wrote, most pain is the illusion of loss. But
Yeah,
really it's a initiation of the omnipresent, because they're not gone.
I know.
We're, and they are, but and I'm not going to say grief isn't real. Oh gosh, I'm getting emotional. Studying grief because I lost six immediate family members in January. My cousin, my grandmother, my mother-in-law, my niece died in a car accident. It was within a very short period of time. Like I just everybody chose to go, and I am still like I'll be fine, and then I'm just not, And so I started studying the neuroscience of that. And I know that's not like God technology, but just on a neuroscience level, because those people were so much a part of my everyday habits, like actual pathways in my brain of like, then you call your grandmother and then you hang out with your mother-in-law and then you talk to your niece and then you call your mentor because it's Wednesday. And, just those habits, there's certain paths in your brain.
And it's
And so
all
it happens.
gone.
Yeah, and so when they're not there anymore, your brain still has those paths, and it's almost like GPS. It's like it's like where's the end? There's no address anymore to that path. And your brain just wants to automatically do it. And so it takes an actual physical 3D new habit building um is not, because I always thought about grief as just emotional. But really, grief is a physical on a lot of levels because your habits are physical. And when you're used to doing life with six people that aren't in your physical life anymore, then you have to create a different situation that you're maybe not accustomed to that takes a physical, path of like, oh, well, I mean, just going to Destin last week, the last time that I was there was when my mentor had passed and I got on a plane to go say goodbye. And he's normally with me at that retreat every year. So it was just like, last time I was here, I had to leave and then, he passed and normally we do this retreat with him. And so I brought up stuff, we have these like loops, um, but I think, and I hope anyway, that maybe it lessens, as these paths change and you start maybe replacing some things, not people, but like new habits of way and like going within and maybe having those conversations as if they're here because they are and they're not anywhere, but they're just with me and they're with you. And now they can be with us at the same time, having to physically be with them. We can just have access to them 100% at any time, without having to drive to them or call them or, just having those conversations, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I think for me that I've experienced also through grief is You know that like that stabbing pain, like you're being stabbed in the chest by a sword, and it's just like ripping you open, and you just want to like scream and wail at the universe type of pain. I think that also opens up people to psychic abilities. I
Wow.
think that opens up awareness. I think it opens up something in consciousness.
I I can see that. Because um my concept of omnipresence has shifted where before I might not have thought about those things, where it's like, oh, what is life? We're eternal, infinite beings, and
Mm-hmm.
so, and I've had like visits from the other side or whatever. Like, I wouldn't say I'm a medium by any chance, or yeah, I am. I mean, all are, but like, for example, my uncle who passed, who was like a dad to me, he was engaged to this woman and um he went off to war, second the Second World War. And when he came back, she was married. He's my great uncle. And he never got married because he was always in love with this lady. And me growing up with him, I never knew like, well, why isn't Marlo married, and all this stuff. And at 75, this lady, like her husband passed and they ended up getting back together and they got married at 75 years old, which is
Wow.
kind of cool. Well, I had a situation not like that, but I had a high school college sweetheart. We were together 5 years and we took a recess and I got married and then got a divorce and like was kind of like thinking about him and just, whatever, and tried to find him on Facebook and like did all the things. And it's a long kind of deal. But I was working with Bob, who's my mentor, and he was like, well, just talk to him as if he's here, say whatever you wanted to say and whatever. And then I had a dream that night that Marlo, my uncle, was at the end of my bed and he just said, "You're welcome." And I was like, "What is that?" And like the next day, my high school sweetheart like reached out to me and I thought, you know what?
Hmm.
He's like on the other side, like orchestrating these things because now I'm married to the guy and we got back together, so I think there's something to that. I know you're right. That resonates. There's no
I,
separation.
yeah, I also think that all we have to do is ask for something and we can get it.
I agree.
I
I
mean, we don't have to worry about how we get it
I
either.
think I think the how is what trips everybody up. But if we just believe, be alive in it. I mean, I had an encounter with these two beings. Well, I choose to know what to call them, but they one in particular has come to me several times when I was pregnant or I got a TV job thing contract or uh just different things. And they gave me all of these formulas, like this whole timeline thing about what you're saying of like how to get things, how to create. And I like woke up with all these like numbers and formula, I was just like writing everything down and I read it all in this one book. And I have practiced that. And that has been a thing that has shifted like my health, my job, like pretty much everything. And a big part of that is like on an electronic aspect is like we speak things or we believe things, which is our heart expression or the radiation that goes into the biofield. And then there's like an echo wave and it comes back to say like, well, is she really serious? Or like, where are we on the code? And are there any like doubts or maybe ancestral programs there where it's like grandma tried to do that and then that didn't work. So that might take away a little bit and then you don't hit the mark as much. But I mean, I have this whole code thing written out in my book. And, when there's all of that cleared out, it's a lot easier to manifest without the doubts and the fears and the programs. And, because whoever they are, don't want us to create, like the good stuff and change the world as a collective, but I think that's why they have to use, engineering of like the media and movies and music and all the things to keep us in that, like, oh, we need someone on the outside, we, or it can't happen, or we need money, or all those things. It's like, oh, well, if you don't have money and you don't have this, and it's never gonna happen. And then we're kind of like stuck in this like slave situation where we don't really know the power of who we are. A friend of mine had said that there's only two questions, and one is like, who do you think you are? And it's like that little nagging voice when you try to think you're going to do something, and then it's like, oh, who do you think you are? And then the other question is, who do you think you are? And when we really know who we are and we remember the technology that's in us already, we are abundance already. We are powerful. We are beautiful. We are like amazing beings that can create and manifest and get whatever we choose. And we also can accidentally default get the shitty stuff too. It's like,
How did you get yourself to believe that you are a creator?
um, it took a lot of unlearning and a lot of reprogramming. And also this encounter that I had, the last thing that this person, this whatever said to me, before they poofed away, um, I say she looked like a woman-ish kind of being, and she's very in and out, light, iridescent colors, like beaming almost like a hologram in and out, like 14, 16 feet tall. I have really tall ceilings in the living room. I just walked in my living room, and she was there in another one. And I call her True. I don't know why, but in my mind, I was like, who is that? And I heard True, and I've called her True since then. But there were some things that were brought up during that event, and then at the end she looked at me and she pointed very like serious and stern, and she said, tell them they're not truly living unless they're living true. And I felt it like in my body, like I felt every cell vibrate, and just, I mean, I was shaking. I was and then they were gone. And I really, there's no way not to resonate on that. I felt like I completely got this like upgrade in consciousness, like immediate, instant. And I really dove in to the neuroscience of that, because I was like, well, what is living true? Like, what is that? And
Mm-hmm.
I came to the conclusion that it's not just like, oh, does my butt look big in these jeans? And you like ask someone that and they tell you like a little bit, like, sure, you look fine, not those kind of lies, but like living lies or living true, like to embody truth, to embody integrity, who you're with as a partner, what job you have, if it's a job, like what do you do for your purpose, like what are you eating? What are you drinking? Like who you spend time with? Like where you put your money? Like even like where are you going to get your groceries today? Or are you going to go to this store or that store? Or maybe you change things up because you feel like I think I'm supposed to go over here. Like all of those choices on a micro level are either living true or not. And when we live true, what's crazy on a neuroscience level versus living a lie is when you live a lie, there's 1,500 chemicals that saturate the entire body to cause the body to have bad immunity. Um, maybe you don't sleep well, it grays your hair, it wrinkles your skin, dehydrates you and your skin. Like that's why people who just don't live true just look ragged and old and and then other people who live true are like they look it's like, wow, you're 70? What? Like you look like you're 50. Um so the opposite is when you live true with every second of every step, because maybe you're supposed to go to that grocery store because someone's going to be there that you're going to meet and they have something for you or you have something for them, or you're going to park next to somebody, or our subconscious knows, our God knows. And when we actually do live that path, um, the chemicals that come down are complete opposite. They build you and your immunity. They give you strength. They give you clarity. They give you ideas. There's synergy and energy and synchronicities, because that's integrity, which the word integrity comes from being integrated, mind, body, and spirit. And when we live in integrity and we embody truth, then we create and create good things instead of the negative. So for me, it was a moment of time that was just like this aha that just
Mhm.
literally poofed in my body and like changed everything. And from that moment, my life purpose became not only living true, but telling everyone I know how to live true, because I knew the side effects of that or the side benefits of that. And does that answer your question? I choose now.
I guess I guess it would answer my question if I knew what true actually was.
Well, true
You,
to
you
you.
know,
Yeah.
and
Everyone
even
has a different
being
truth.
true to myself has been a tricky thing because I lost or I don't know like I for me anyway I feel like I really lost touch at some point, and I'm still trying to figure out who the true me is. But I also know I do know too because I know that I may you know too that you're able to create and do things within this reality that other people might think you're crazy for talking about, but it does appear to seem to be real and has always been that way. So, obviously the true self, and like you said earlier, it's God, or in my perspective, I'll say it's the universe
Yes.
experiencing itself.
Yes.
I mean that's obviously the true, and that thing is doing this so it can have an experience, so it can try to understand itself by going through every possibility that there is, which is just creating this huge thing of information. And then you just sort of, and then after that, you sort of just become whatever you focus your attention on, whatever information your attention is on, is sort of like who we become.
Yes. What you stand before you become.
So I don't know if there is a true self. Like in Buddhism, they talk about no self. And,
Oh,
and yeah, because like the whole idea of Buddhism is there is no self. It's just ego, what we appear here. And I think that is close to the truth. I think it's very close to the truth because there is no self. There's just the attention that, and whatever the attention or the energy focuses on creates an illusion of self or an illusion of reality.
so so do you believe that you personally have like a purpose to be here, or what is that for you?
Ooh, I'm the one being interviewed. Yes, I think there is a purpose. And I mean, I think my actual purpose is a simple one. It's just to be here for the people that are in my personal life. Really, I'm not even sure if my purpose is doing this podcast or some grand thing of trying to bring about enlightenment in the world. It's just something I do. I'm not really sure why.
See, and your signature code of what you do is obviously going to be different than mine or your neighbor or even your very best friend, right? Like I think we all have, and this is just what I made up. I think we all have a specific path, and we can we are continually creating and recreating
Mhm.
that path. And there's so many, like you said, possibilities. It could be like, well, if I take this step, this is the timeline. And if I take that step, this is the timeline. And I mean, we're always like recalculating, it's like, wait a minute. With that God positioning system, it's like, okay, I think this is really the thing, but you can choose this other thing, and we can override, with our willpower to totally, choose a different thing. And, maybe we get back, maybe that's the catalyst to learn some other lesson for something else, and we're just always having lessons. And if we're aware, I mean, some people, I guess, would probably just constantly make bad choices and never hit rock bottom and then just leave. And they're just like more, the shadow of
But
the purpose.
even that's a purposeful life. In
Yeah,
fact, that
it's a
life might
purpose.
even be more purposeful than a
Yeah.
life that I'm living, because
I,
that person's having all those experiences and putting them in their memory bank or whatever, their soul, or
yeah.
collective.
And
I don't
being a
really know the right
catalyst.
words all the time for these things.
Yeah. I mean, I just spoke with one of my dear friends who her son killed himself. And her view of that is just like, you know what? If that was what he was, I'm not saying everyone should do it at all, like zero. But to cope, or maybe, or whatever her situation is, she was like, he lived in the shadows, and that was a choice he made, to maybe that was his role in some way of maybe making someone else not do it because he did it, or maybe it was a catalyst for her awakening, or like, who's to say what everyone's supposed to be doing, it's interesting.
Yeah, also asked me earlier too about something that I was thinking about this the other day. It was just a random thought, but about like, well, why would I be here? And I just kind of broke it down to something really simple. Like I'm experiencing this reality through five senses.
Wait, why was life easier? Is that what
No,
you
no,
said?
like, why am I here?
Oh,
Why are
oh.
we here? And I broke it down to something very simple. It's like, all I'm doing here is experiencing reality through five senses, or the illusion of experiencing reality through five senses. So maybe that's it. Maybe we're just here to have a sensual experience.
I I believe that, and I also believe we're here to love, we're here to learn or remember. I think remembering is easier than learning, but and also some people don't want to remember, or they're just in the role of the shadow. Um,
Mm-hmm. But all
to
those certainly fall under the realm of sensual experience.
yeah, and there may be more senses than five,
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is, but I'm
that
just
we
saying for
just,
3D reality
yeah.
purposes, most people are perceiving it that way.
Yeah, and our technology may, obviously, because like dogs can see more colors and, hear different decimals, and whales and, dolphins in their brilliance can literally heal people by just getting into a tank, of dolphins, and cancer goes away, or a lady has a baby with no labor pains, hanging out with dolphins, having a baby in the pool, or what. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what is that about? Like, let's tap into that technology,
Yeah, I see my dog do that all. Like I walk my dog all the time. Like he's always smelling, and I always wonder, like, what is it like he's experiencing? And then in my head, I'll imagine like a cartoon land, like what dogs walking through his cartoon land, and all these different smells are different colors, and he just picks a different color and just kind of just follows it along.
I didn't even know that dogs see different colors until this last weekend. There was a lady who had this blue stuffed animal dog, and I think the dog's name was Blue, actually, like the cartoon or whatever. But apparently, there's like a cartoon that only has colors in colors that dogs can see, and it's like dog TV or something, and they like leave it on for their dog. I was like, what? That's new to me. Okay, cool. But
Yeah.
wouldn't it be cool to have like X-ray vision and like be able to hear like the, or maybe it would make us nuts. Like what superpower would you want? Or would you want all of them? Like being invisible or, transporting or being so strong you could lift up cars or, like what would be yours? Flying.
I think the first one that comes to my mind right now would be immortality.
Wow. Would you really want to live forever though? Gosh. I mean, you are going to live forever. Maybe
That's
your body
exactly
is,
that's what I'm saying. We
yeah,
already
yeah.
kind
We
of
are
do.
infinite. Yes.
But to
Immortality.
be fully 100% connected with that, that would mean you could live completely fearless, I think.
That would be nice to have just courage every day.
Like no fear at all. Nothing.
Imagine what people would do if everyone just lived a life of valor and had no F's to give.
I think about like sometimes people like Vikings or something like that, like people who think nothing about losing their lives.
Is that is
They
that
just
your ancestral background,
no,
Vikings?
not at
No.
all.
Oh, okay, I'm
No,
just curious.
no. I'm part half German and half Italian, so Roman is there.
Yeah.
Um, but people who could just walk into it and do it, not even think about it. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
that's serious bravery, I think.
yeah, I'm obsessed with all the Viking movies.
Where I was watching something yesterday about people going to Mars and how it's a one-way trip, you know, and they're gonna start these things in 2030, and they have all these candidates, and they're all signing up just to go to Mars to colonize. Like that to me is like super brave.
Is that with Elon? Is he heading that up?
I don't know
Or is it
which one.
somebody
I
else?
don't know which billionaire it is that's doing it.
Wow. I just watched a video with him and I just randomly, how things pop up. And I think it was with Joe Rogan and it was just one of those little shorts or whatever. And I guess he was selling all his homes because he has a bunch of them and he was selling them. And Joe Rogan asked him like, I heard you're selling all your houses or whatever. And what is it? Like, why are you selling everything? And he said, well, I find that having a lot of stuff just weighs you down, first of all. And I was like, yeah. And he said that he wasn't selling the Gene Wilder house. Apparently, he had like Gene Wilder, the guy, he had
Yeah.
his house, and he said they wanted to tear it down, and he wanted it to like stay preserved because it was like kind of kooky, like off-centered cabinets and weird furniture, and like it was built like kind of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't want it to be destroyed, so he was keeping it. But he said he was selling everything else, and he's like, well, why? What's the catalyst? And he said that he with every choice he makes, he asks one question, and that one question is, will this get me to Mars? I was like, wow, like that's all he thinks about. Like that is some kind of purpose, to like get to Mars. Like he just wants to get to Mars. And there's like that book from like I think the 1800s where there's like Barron Trump's dad is the last president or he's the last president and like Elon is the president of Mars. And I'm like, what if that's like prophetic in some way, Like what if he really will be president of Mars? That would be interesting.
Well, we have to get off the planet, and if we stay on the planet, we'll fail as a species.
That's what he says.
At least in this particular reality. Do you
Uh,
think that humans were seated on Earth?
yeah. I don't, I think I know there's off planet stuff happening for sure. And there's, I don't know if it was really for gold or like what the
Mhm.
situation is, but yeah, that's my particular thing that I believe, but everyone has their own. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I think we probably mine is I believe currently anyway. I change my views sometimes.
I love that you said that. I always say, well, this is
So,
what I think right now, but that could change in
but
five
but
minutes.
the one I've been had for a while is that maybe that we probably originated from Mars, and the reason I believe that is because and somebody wrote a book on it too that our bone structure, the upright back, and everything is more suitable for a planet with less gravity. And
Huh,
and then Mars is a planet that's smaller than ours and has less gravity.
what's the
So
book?
so I would have to Google it to find out
You definitely got to
which
send me
one it
that.
is.
I definitely want to
But
partake in that.
it's an old book, you know, it's an old theory actually, but it's one that makes a lot of sense to me
I
because
wonder,
because we're the only bipedal
were
species
they
on the
only what?
planet. We're the only bipedal species on this planet, and it's not the best configuration for the gravity.
I wonder if Elon read that book.
I'm sure he has.
He's probably read everything on Mars he can get his hands on.
Yes, I'm sure
Well,
he's
I
fully
mean, Laura
aware of it.
Eisenhower is one of my best friends ever.
Really, I've asked her to come on before.
Oh,
I don't know,
we
it's
were
everything
just doing,
imaginable.
we just did a retreat. I just dropped her off at the airport. We just did a retreat in Destin, but she lives right up the road from me in Montana. And she was recruited to go to Mars years ago,
Yeah.
and people just don't believe it. And it's like, I mean, not for great reasons either. And she chose not to go, but um, yeah.
Here's a question. If people in power are completely aware that everybody is able to create their desires basically by asking a quantum field and having it feed back to us a reflection, why do they why do they want to control that? Like what benefit do they have? I mean, if everybody has the ability, yeah, but money is meaningless. Is an artificial. All this is artificial in the end, and they know that. So it seems kind of pointless to me why they would even try to control it.
I I mean, you're talking about whoever is doing all this, right? The machine,
Yeah,
power, money, um, you know, to literally control it. I mean, in my opinion, it's like if they have the money, like money isn't anything and they can rechange and restructure however anyway, but I like I said, I think that's why they work so hard to maintain certain programs through Hollywood and music and celebrities and politics and the Great Divide and like have you ever seen the series 100? I think it's 100. The 100s. I don't know, but there's
uh,
this part where, you know, they are off planet and they want to come down to wherever Earth and they send like 100 people down here or whatever, and that there's some people living underneath the Earth that are
mhm.
the elite people, and they're constantly like starting all these wars between the two groups that are up on the top surface because while no one's looking, they're like stealing people and taking their blood and using it to live forever. And, there's all of these things, they're taking all the money, they're taking all the land they need for resources, I'm like, wow, that sounds super familiar. Yeah. It's like, but I don't know. Ultimately, I think it's like ego, power. I don't know. It's kind of evil. It is
Isn't
evil.
Is it? I
It's
mean, it's
su-
the universe experiencing itself, right? So how could it be evil?
well, but if it's like causing harm to
Hmm.
people,
But
I don't.
how would the universe know what harm is unless it creates it so it can experience it?
Yeah, I see where you're going. I see like that would be the only way to do it, right?
They're just stories, I think.
Possibly if everything is to experience through the senses and that thing needs to experience even the dark. I think with the whole light and dark thing too, it's like the dark can be used as a catalyst to bring up consciousness in many ways. Like look what's going on in the world. Look how much everyone has woken up in the past few years with all the control and the weird stuff that's been forced and manipulated and manufactured. I think it has caused a raise in consciousness, and even the people that I would never ever think would wake up are like looking into things that they haven't looked at before and experiencing things differently.
Yeah.
But
So truly though, I don't believe that evil exists because of that fact, though. Because the universe has to do these things because they're possibilities. But I think in the end, it has to be more creative than it is destructive. Otherwise, it would become self-destructive, obviously, and then it would cease to exist.
yeah, World War III nuclear bombs wouldn't be so great.
For this planet, I'm sure there's life elsewhere. But somebody somewhere has to have that experience, though, of a World War III nuclear annihilation because it's a possibility. Therefore, it has to happen, right? Because every possibility has to happen, I think.
Interesting. Every possibility has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So like what?
All of them, like in a nuclear annihilated Earth, it has to happen on some timeline.
Hmm.
Just because, just because we're able to think about it means that it's already happened in a way. We've already just created it.
True. That is true.
So now the thought form exists. So the thought form exists. That means the information exists. If the information exists, that means it's going to come in that somewhere somehow it must exist.
In this timeline or another, somewhere.
Yes,
Yes, I see what you're saying. Well, again, going back to the media thing, they make all these movies and videos and whatever about and show those imagery. It's like using us to create.
exactly what they do. Because the more collective that's in the stream,
Then it's like,
I think
oh yeah, we've been waiting for
the
this.
stronger the manipulation is.
Or like the whole Revelations book, it's like, oh, well, this is this Revelation. It's like, is it? Or did you just create that because you wrote that up and now everyone's reading it and believing it?
Well, that's what happens. Somebody creates it, enough people read it and believe it, and then it automatically becomes
Expected.
manifested.
Yeah,
So it doesn't matter whether what a person says is real or not real. All it matters is whether people believe it. And when
exactly.
people believe it, that creates a paradigm, and that paradigm becomes its own reality. And some
Yes,
of these realities, I think, overlap.
absolutely. Agreed. Yes, yes. Because we have our collective biofield and then we have our individual biofields, and the more the merrier, or the more the not so merrier, depending, by default, we're creating either way.
Yes. What is one of your favorite things to create?
Oh gosh. Love, love, love. I love practicing creating just to see if I can do it. Just to remind myself that I can.
So you kind of play around with it.
I do. I do. I will outcome map different things and then program myself and then wait for it to happen and see if I could do it faster this time than that time.
Mhm.
And just kind of mess around. Um, I've practiced by location. I did it by accident, and then I'm like, well, if I did it by accident, I could do it in real life. It's just like, why not?
Mhm.
Like, what is time? What's your favorite thing to create?
I don't know. I like to play games. Like sometimes like I lose things, and I used to hate losing things and having to look for them. It always drove like my keys, like because I'm a kind of a forgetful person. But now I think of it as fun. Like I get excited sometimes when I lose something. Like, all right, now's my opportunity to do this.
I have a few funny stories with that. One thing that when I can't find something, it's funny that we say, "Oh, I found it." It's like, "Oh, I forgot to." Like, let's say you go to your car and you're leaving, and then you forgot your phone in the house, and so you'll say, "Oh, I forgot my phone." It's like, no, you remembered your phone. It's like we say these weird things. But I had these arm weights that I would use when I would go work out or when I would go like walk or whatever, just to have a little extra pound or two on my wrists. And I was packing to go somewhere and I could not find my arm wrist bands. I was just like, this is crazy. Like, where did I put them? And I've started to do things uh, like since then, I started to say, I am God's mind remembering where my arm bands are, or I'm God's eyes seeing my armbands or whatever. And usually it'll come like right to me where it is. Like once I believe that I can, I'll say, I am God's hands holding my armbands right now. And then it's all of a sudden I'll see it in my mind's eye where it is and I'll go right to it. So I
Mhm.
said that and I saw them at the gym and I remembered that I had them at the gym that morning. I took them off for a minute to weigh myself on the scale and then I walked away and left him there. So I called the gym and this is the night before and I called and I said, "Hey, I'm pretty sure I left my stuff there and can you check to see it?" And they said, "Oh yeah, we found them and we put them aside. They're in the lost and found. You can come get them in the morning." And I was like, "Well, I'm leaving in the morning and my flight is so and so, so I won't be able to get them, blah 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 blah." And get off the phone and the next morning I just kept thinking like, why do I have to wait to go get them? Like let's just like get them back. Like why do I have to go over there and
Mhm.
get them? And so I started imagining that I already had my arm weights and that I had them for my trip and blah 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 blah. And so I packed, I did all the things and I just kept on agreeing. And like I went, got my suitcase, got in the car, and then I remembered my phone was still in the house. So I went back, got my phone, and when I went looking for my phone, I like go and they are literally crisscrossed on my bed, like in the middle, like where I would be sleeping. They were just sitting there crisscrossed. And I was like, whoa, look what I just did. Like that is crazy. So I called later at the gym and I was like, "Hey, are my weights over there still?" And they looked and they were like, "They're gone. We don't know where they are." It's like, what? So I had witnesses of people who saw them, and my kids saw me running around trying to find them because I had like got them in on like trying to find them. I said, "Let's all create them back. Let's remember them here." And I practiced with them and they've done some things too where they lost their wallet and she
Mhm.
was like, "I'm just gonna do what mom did with the weights." And she had $40 in there and she thought she was like just the richest girl in town at one of these conferences and she was so bummed that she lost it at this conference and she had all the people looking for her, and she was crying and upset and I said, "Well, you can get it back, just remember what mom did with the weights or whatever." So when we got home she literally just took this, like we all were just debriefing from the conference and she literally made a beeline like straight for my bed and it wasn't there. And so she was like, "Ugh, it's not there." And I was like, "I'm sure it's there. Just look." So she goes in her room and they're on her bed. And she found her wallet and her money. And she's like, I got it.
That's great. So yeah, I mean that kind of proves, right, what we've been talking about for almost an hour now. Or in some ways, I think all this stuff happens. It's not supernatural. It happens because we focus our attention on something and it materializes.
Naturally.
Just and it does also kind of goes right there with Niles Bohr's Copenhagen theory of quantum physics. It's basically what he says in that theory is that whatever we focus on, the field manifests.
Yes. What you focus on, you make room for.
Yes. So I want to thank you for coming on. And before we wrap it up, where can people find you and what services do you offer?
Yes, so you can go to drsharnael.com. Sharnael is Sharnael, like Israel. I have biofeedback remote. I have all kinds of workshops on my website. I do soul audits. I have 5 books and a crystal card deck. I do have a podcast as well on Thursdays at noon, and we have a lot of fun guests there. I'd love to have you come on
Oh,
sometime.
come on. Yeah.
I'd love to have you. Yeah, and I'll talk to Laura too about, maybe you guys connecting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a private practice, and so I do see patients in real life. Um, but I do a lot online consultations as well, not just for physical, but for spiritual. And yeah, I speak at conferences and all that. But it really, I'm on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. So you guys can find me there. And if anyone's watching and you're just like, hey, this was cool, I like this part or whatever, I really like real life too. I know that's like
Mhm.
made up, but I love hugging, I love seeing faces. So if something stuck out to you and you got something out of this, I love the feedback, and just send me a quick message on Facebook or something, and then I can actually see your face and connect and go like give you a little virtual hug and all of that. I love like meeting new people and connecting with people. So yeah.
It is nice to connect with people again.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you.
Yes,
And
thank you so
just,
much, Gary. Appreciate you. And I'll be in touch about having you on my show as well. If you're still up for it, I'm serious.
I'm always up for it.
Awesome. All right.
All
Thank
right.
you. Have a good
Hang,
one.
you
All right.
too. Hang on one second.